Hi, I'm Keith DeCandido.
And I'm Andrea Lipinski, and welcome back to the Chronic Rift.
Yes, another one. We're not going away. Tonight we'll be talking about 3 movies that changed the face of science fiction movies thereafter. The Star Wars trilogy will be discussed on the roundtable. This review is Panorama, a collection of stuff put together by artist Debbie David, including stuff by artist Debbie David. The work includes people like Jim Wheelock, Baton Lash, Neil Fiegeles, and Kathy Greenfield. The main feature is called Odd. It is a story by Debbie David, which involves an artist named Connie who goes to the Great Lama in the Himalayas to find out the meaning of life. He tells her that what she needs is somebody called Odd. She has no idea what this means, but she's suddenly transported back to the 14th Street station in New York at Union Square, where she sees chalk art reminiscent of Keith Haring, signed Odd. The chalk art is what you see on the cover of the first issue, and is done by a guy named Todd who signs things odd and who is also a kind of telepathic mystic.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a movie was born. It told a futuristic story with classical roots. Over the procession of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, a young man leaves his home to go on adventures and fight against evil with a mysterious old sage. He encounters evil and finds himself. He meets and destroys his long-lost father, and he grows up in the process. With Keith and me today to discuss Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, the Star Wars trilogy, we have with us 2 previous guests of the Chronic Rift. On my right, Joe Duffy, a writer of Marvel's Star Wars comic and the creator-publisher of Nest Robber. And on the other side of Keith, we have P.M. Griffin, who is the author of Star Commandos and several of the Witch World books. I understand that was one of the things our director and producer was talking to me today on the way here and saying that was one of the problems with Star Trek the Motion Picture. That was how it was pushed through, and well, it needs to be more like Star Wars, and it needs to have more special effects. So it got the special effects.
And the funniest thing is that the special effects in Star Wars, I mean, I adore them, but what sold Star Wars was never the special effects. I mean, that may have been what marketed it, but what sold it to people, what made people take it to their hearts, was the story and the characters and the emotion, and you know, the fact that you have this nice little microcosm with Luke Skywalker and his personal journey from seeking child to fully realized man, and also the story of, you know, political evil and galactic evil and destruction and people fighting to save their homes and their families. That is what has made Star Wars great, and it's what most of its imitators since then have lacked.
But yeah, you focus on the thing that is most obvious about it visually, you know, the thing that hits you the hardest, at least in the minds of Hollywood producers.
Yes,
anyway,
it couldn't possibly be that it's a good story about great characters with fine direction and fine.
Well, also you could argue
we're looking for the hook.
Yeah. Also, you can argue it's easier to do good special effects than it is to come up with a good story.
Yeah.
If all you need is technology. Yeah. That's sort of it's funny. Watching it again in preparation for this, I wouldn't go so far as to call it chintzy, but a lot of the special effects look like, especially after seeing something like Terminator 2 or something that is even more, or even on TV, on Star Trek, The Next Generation, it's not as high-tech, and it almost looks... You said that these are the only 3 out of the only 5 movies you've seen
since Star Wars came out. I'm not terribly visually oriented.
Right.
Sorry.
As a writer, do you think that the Star Wars trilogy has affected science fiction literature in any way, either in the way you write, especially since you do military SF a lot also? Right. Has Star Wars had an effect in that sense?
Oh yes, thank heavens, it brought the magic back. Science fiction is still very heavily towards political, social, you know, this is what's wrong now, here's how we'll fix it, or here's how we'll show it in its really terrible state. But Star Wars brought the magic back. You could have your knight errant run out and whip the bad guys and give everybody a really good read or a really good view in the process. You could have nice characters who were going to win. You could have characters who liked and respected each other or fought with each other, and still be nice.
Okay, well, thank you both very much. This has been pretty freewheeling here. Next week.
Next week,
folk
singing.
Yes, we're going to have songs and singing and dancing. Well, not dancing, but we will have singing.
Spanish and science fiction-esque folk singing is what it is.
And also, we have for you over the closing credits something from Shore Leave, Mystery Trekkie Theater 3000. Peter David, Bob Greenberger, Michael Jan Friedman, and others all acting very silly on a stage. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
I love what you've done with the place.
Where'd the music come from? Where is that music coming from?
Who decorated this place? King Tut? I think I'll fall into a trap. Remote control, turn to jet for the defense, quickly! Didn't I see this sticking to the wall joke on Letterman? You think the ominous music would have tipped him off, you know?